Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes. I do have a talking point. We just said we don't have talking points, and something just happened that made me think of it. Do
Yes.
cucumbers like make you burp,
Mm, no, but
or is that a
apples
me
do.
thing? Interesting. I think
Yeah.
it's so interesting. Like obviously there's like foods in general that like can make you burp. Like
Yeah.
broccoli makes you burp because it's like fiber. You know what I mean? Like
hmm
stuff like that. But I'm like, cucumbers? Why do cucumbers make me burp? Like why do people have those random things that
Yeah.
like make them like more burpy than another food?
That is interesting because, yeah, not for me, but apples definitely do. Like anytime I eat an
Yeah.
apple, I burp a lot after.
It's
Hmm.
always cucumbers, and I love cucumbers so much, so I still eat them.
Yeah.
I just like I burp them up. Like I can taste them.
I wonder if it could be like, not like an allergy, but like an intolerance maybe, but like a very, very minor one. So it's like it's not, a severe enough reaction that like you would stop eating it, but it's like maybe your body's like, we don't like this thing.
Yeah.
But you're like,
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm gonna eat
I
it
don't care. I
anyway.
like it. And they say it's good for you, so I'm gonna keep eating it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. Bodies are weird. We also know I just have a terrible stomach, so
Your
most
body hates everything.
if I listened to my body and what to eat, I would eat nothing.
Yeah.
I'd be eating like plain chicken.
You know, something I do want to talk about. So, my cousin is one of these people, and I work with one of these people. And people that like don't enjoy food, people that just eat to survive.
Hmm.
And it blows my mind. Like, I just
Yeah.
cannot, like, I love food. Food
It's
is wonderful. Food is an experience. And like, there are people out there who are just like, yeah, I eat because I have to stay alive. Like, I don't care what I'm eating. I don't really enjoy what I'm eating. I just have to eat it.
try being married to one.
That's true. Kevin is one of those, isn't he?
Yeah. So
Kevin
it's really
enjoys some
hard.
things though. Like he has some things that he likes. It's not like he
Kevin,
enjoys
yeah,
nothing.
so Kevin, he has certain foods that like he loves
Yeah.
and like foods that he likes and stuff, but for him, I don't feel like it's like we're sitting down, like this is so good. Don't you think this is so good? He'll be like, it's fine. But
Yeah.
fine to him is like good. But then I'm like, it's just like I cooked dinner, it's just fine. And he was like, but you know, like fine means good. I don't know. It's a whole thing. But like I think also like not to air my husband's childhood trauma, but there was definitely some
Yes.
lack of food at times
hmm
for various reasons. So I feel like also like as a kid, like he doesn't have hunger cues is the thing
Yeah.
that's scares me. Like when I go out of town or like I have plans where I'm like, please remember to eat. It's not
hmm
that I think he's like incompetent and can't
Yeah.
like fix himself something. I'm like, you're gonna genuinely forget.
I feel like there's a lot of people though that just like I hear all the time like, oh yeah, like I forgot to eat and blah blah blah. And I'm like, never once in my life has that happened. Have I been too busy to eat? Yes. But have I thought about the fact that I'm not eating and I want to be? Yes. Like,
I do know also my friend who listens to this podcast. Hi, I won't say her name just in case you don't want this aired. But she takes like Adderall for like her ADHD and she said like she
hmm
completely forget like food isn't even
Yeah,
a thought for her like
that
half the
makes
time
sense.
because it's just like whatever. So yeah. It's just crazy because I get so excited being like I'll be like eating lunch. I'm like, what am I eating for dinner?
I was literally
Like
about to say, and then you have us who think about what we're going to eat for the next meal while we're currently
hmm.
eating the meal that we're eating, or like look
Yeah.
forward to like that one thing all day. Like today, like Courtney was over here last night and brought cookies, and all morning I'm looking forward to eting this cookie after lunch. And then I did,
Hmm.
and it was amazing. And I mean, I didn't
I
eat the whole
know.
thing because it's like quite a big cookie,
It's
but
a huge cookie.
it's like the
That's
size of my
why
head, literally.
yeah, I think they're a pound, right? They say
I
like
think so. They're like
it's like a
massive.
pound of
Yeah.
dough, yeah. And then like the one I got is like a specialty cookie they only have ever so often. So I always have to
hmm
buy like two or three,
Yeah.
but they last forever because I can
hmm
only eat like two bites because it's like it's basically two red velvet cookies with like chocolate icing in the middle and it's
hmm
absolutely delicious, but it is so rich. I can't eat more than like three bites and then I'm
Like
like,
three bites
I'm
is
good.
pretty much like a giant normal size cookie that you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this was wonderful.
I'm good. But it's so nice because I can be like a few little bites, or like I'm walking by and I'm like, I'm gonna have one little bite because I just want like a little bite of cookie, you know?
hmm
So, but it was hard because I really wanted some this morning, but I was like, I can't have any before breakfast. This is the part of that
Sure you
sucks
can.
of being an adult. Yeah, I
It's
want
pretty much
my
like a
blood
muffin.
sugar to go out the window.
You just gotta pair it with some protein. Just cook up some bacon to
I
go with your breakfast
I didn't
cookie.
have any. I forgot. Sometimes I forget to like plan for breakfasts when I grocery shop, and so then I'm just like
Hmm.
looking around. I'm like, I guess I'll have another hard-boiled egg. That's about all I got right now.
Well, let's not even talk about how expensive eggs are right now, because that's a whole other.
Yeah, I'm just so lucky. We had like a friend's Christmas party,
Hmm.
and Alyssa's Nana, like her chickens just laid so many
Mm,
eggs that she was like, I can't. I need
yeah.
you to take some of these eggs. So she sent us a bunch of eggs, and
Nice.
nobody took their eggs home.
Oh no.
And I was left with 7 dozen eggs.
Oh my God.
But at that
Courtney,
point,
why
I'm
aren't you
like,
sharing the egg wealth over here?
sorry. But I'm like, at that point, like I was sitting on like $70.
Right? You start selling
Um,
those on the black
these are those
market.
are fresh eggs. Ain't
Yeah.
no processed nothing. Those go for like $8 in the
Yeah.
store. But so I have 3 dozen left.
Well,
So
we did just get a bunch of eggs from my father-in-law's neighbor, so we also have probably like 4 dozen eggs here. So, I won't give you
yeah.
too much because we also do have some
Yeah.
fresh. We had
Yeah,
duck
you
eggs
didn't
too.
share.
So,
Oh, I've had
yeah.
duck eggs before, but they're fine.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like, was this worth it? I could just eat a chicken egg. It tastes the same to me.
Right. You're like, yeah, egg's an
That's
egg.
my
I don't know.
uncultured self, I guess. But
Yeah. We do eat a lot of eggs around here though.
yeah, I love eggs. So having these eggs have made me feel like not bad about using all the eggs. So
Yeah. Also, I have to tell a funny story that has to do with food. I don't know why it's popping into my brain because I can hear my husband getting snacks in outside of my office
his
right now.
million snacks.
That
Last
wasn't
night I
even
was
the
over.
story, but
Oh, sorry, but let me just have a quick story before Jacqueline tells the story.
it's
We were at
related.
We were at Jacqueline's house last night for like girls' night. And like we ate food or whatever. Andrew ate about the same time as we did. We all sit down on the couch and then I just see him like come out and get like a little like bar or something. Goes back in. Comes back in, he's like making a bag of popcorn. He comes back in, he's eating like an apple and a kiwi. I'm like,
Every
oh, he ate
night.
ice cream.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my
All in the
gosh, he's
span of our
coming back
like
in.
2 hour movie.
He's just like every 30 minutes need another snack.
See, me too. It's why we get along so well. But no, my story was related to that when we were, making dinner. We did like a taco night, and the three of us, me and Courtney and Tiffany, were gossiping and catching up on some stuff. And then you have Andrew over there making his tortillas that he burns. So then we're like not going at, that sounds like we're arguing, but we're like chattering away. And he's just like scraping off his burnt tortilla in the trash can. And then I was like, oh, he's gonna get his food and he's gonna leave. And then I look over and he's just eating his food, listening, catching up
He
on
wanted
everything.
all the tea. He needed that tea. And it was good gossip, I gotta say. It
It was.
was prime real
He
estate
had to
gossip.
hear the whole thing. He had to fully invest. But that was
And
my
don't
funny
worry,
story.
he commented on it too. He got in on the gossip.
He did. He had a lot to say. Oh boy. I love how we were
Okay.
like, we have nothing to talk about, and then here we are, quite a
How
ways
long do we just
in.
talk about food?
Yeah.
Oopsie.
Whoopsies.
Well, in between our food talk and getting into the serious stuff, we do want to give a shout out to our newest Patreon member, Betsy. Thank you so much for joining. We so much appreciate it. I actually do know Betsy, so I really, really appreciate it. Um,
Yes, thank you, Betsy. We're
so
happy to have you here.
yes, I hope you enjoy all your bonus episodes.
And if you want to be like Betsy, you can go to patreon.com/caffeinated crimes to get those bonus episodes as well. Just go ahead and plug it here at the beginning.
For some reason, that sounded like when they have like infomercials, but also like drug commercials. Like, if you don't want to be like so and so, don't do meth.
We need to make
Like
a
they
commercial of
always
like
like
black and white, like you're just like sitting there with nothing to listen to, and then it's color, and then you're listening to our bonus episodes.
yeah. Like the drug commercials always use someone's name. They were like,
Hmm.
"Don't be like John. John tried meth one time, and now he doesn't have a job and he sleeps on the street."
Do you
And
remember
my
the
favorite
anti-drug commercial that were like the talking squirrels? Like, who created this campaign? It's like we're gonna have talking squirrels on an anti-drug commercial. Like,
my favorite was like the anti-weed one when they were like, what's another name? Billy started smoking weed, and now all he does is sit on the couch. And I'm like, that sounds wonderful.
Right.
Also, like, as a parent, you're like, so you're telling me if my kids start smoking weed instead of drinking alcohol, at least stay in the house?
They're just gonna sit
Yeah.
here and do nothing? Cool. Sounds great.
Oh,
Which
anyway.
also reminds me of the podcast That's Messed Up, the SVU podcast. So they're both comedians and like one does a lot of like stand up and everything. And she was talking about how she's like reading like the court documents like for the case that they were talking about. And she's like, I just like don't understand it. Like I don't know how lawyers do this. She's like, I don't know if it's like because I'm reading it on my phone or like if it's the weed, but like I just don't understand. I just thought it was so funny. Just so like
Girl, I think it's the
nonchalant.
weed.
She's like, maybe this, I don't know, could be related. Okay, let's get into this episode. So our sources include a People magazine investigates. It was season 1, episode 5, Cabin 28, Horror in the Woods. A Hub Pages article, an All That's Interesting article, and an article from historicmysteries.com. So, Glenna Sue Sharp was a 36-year-old mother of 5. Sue and her husband had a rocky relationship, and they tried multiple times to make it work, but finally, Sue gave up on the marriage, and she moved with her children across the country to a small mountain town in Keddie, California. So, her children were a 15-year-old Johnny, 14-year-old Sheila, 12-year-old Tina, 10-year-old Rick, and 5-year-old Greg. So one source says she was moving from Connecticut, but another says North Carolina. So we can't confirm exactly where she was coming from, but it was like somewhere on the East Coast, and now she's moving to California. So, Keddie, California is a very small town in the forest of Northeast California in Plumas County. So, it's a place where people go to like get away. And Sue's brother lived 7 miles away in Quincy. So, she was really excited for a fresh start, like excited about this situation. It really seemed ideal. And Sue's ex-husband was in the military, so she did get some money from the divorce. She also got a part-time job at the Quincy Elks Lodge. In 1981, she was able to move into Cabin 28 in the Keddie Resort, and she loved it. Keddie had a very strong sense of community, and the Sharps were quickly welcomed in. Sue was described as quiet, like a really good woman, and the kids made friends and played with a lot of kids in the community as well. Her oldest son, Johnny, could be a bit of a rascal. I mean, what 15-year-old isn't, but
What 15-year-old boy isn't? That's what my thought. I was like, I mean, that's just normal.
yeah, that's what you expect. Sheila was a really good kid. Tina was angelic, as described by Sheila. Rick was very quiet growing up. Greg was feisty. They were just happy-go-lucky children. And Sheila became very close to the Seabolt family who lived in the cabin next door. And a lot of the kids would play together in the neighborhood. So Sheila was really close friends with Alicia Seabolt from next door. And on April 11th, 1981, she was having a sleepover with Alicia. And the brothers decided to have friends come over and spend the night with them. So a neighbor boy named Justin Easton hung out with Greg and Ricky a lot. And Justin was going to spend the night there. So Johnny was friends with a boy named Dana Wingate, and they hung out a lot together as well. And Dana was going to spend the night. So Johnny and Dana were in the cabin with Sue and the other boys, and Johnny and Dana had been out at a party and had been seen possibly hitchhiking back around 9:30 or 10 p.m., and supposedly a woman gave them a ride home. Tina had hung out at the Seabolts and left around 9:30, where Sheila stayed. The next morning, Sheila got up around 7 a.m. and went home. She opened the door and she saw dead bodies on the ground. She said she wasn't sure like who the bodies were. They were all tied together with medical tape and electrical cord, and Sheila looked around, but she couldn't find her mom. She did see a hammer and a bent knife. Sheila didn't know if someone was like still in the cabin, so she dropped her stuff and ran back next door screaming. The Seabolts called the police and sent their older son, Jamie, over to the cabin. So Jamie walks around quietly and he looks in the window and he finds Rick, Greg, and Justin were all sleeping and still alive. So he gets them out the window and to the Seabolts cabin. So once the sheriff gets to the cabin, they identified Johnny, Dana, and Sue. It appeared there had been a fight. Johnny had sustained a good amount of injuries, and police see that Sue was gagged with a bandana and her underwear. There was like tape securing the gag as well. She was naked from the waist down, but there was no sign of sexual assault. And blood patterns, which we do have to acknowledge are not always accurate, but they did imply that her legs had been like spread apart, but that someone had moved her body and then covered it with a yellow blanket after the murder. and Johnny and Dana's bodies had also been moved. Sue and Johnny had multiple stabbings and blunt force trauma to the head, and both of their throats had been slashed. Dana also had several head wounds and had been strangled. So, autopsy results showed that they had been stabbed and beaten with two different hammers. One hammer was found at the scene, and the other hammer was missing. There were also two knives, and one came from Sue's kitchen. And the degree of brutality just seemed so extreme that they believed the killer knew at least one person there. So we do see that a lot, that when it's something like to that level, that there's some kind of personal angle there.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever was there had been there for a while as well, because they clearly had taken their time. A lot of people also believe that there could have been more than one killer because there were two teenage boys who had been tied up and tortured. So you would think like three against one being an adult, two being teenage boys, that they would be able to fight back if it was just one person. So the cabin didn't show any signs of forced entry, but detectives did find a fingerprint on the rail on the back stairs. The cabin's telephone had been left off the hook, and all of the lights had been shut off, as well as the drapes closed. So soon everyone realized that Tina was still missing. So once they realized this, there was an exhaustive search. They searched the roads, side roads, everywhere they can think of. An all points bulletin was also put out, as well as posters all around Keddie and the surrounding towns. They even called in the FBI. So now investigators are wondering if the killer or killer's plan was to kidnap Tina and the Sharps had fought back. So the first suspect was Sue's ex-husband, Jim. Sue had been scared of Jim's violent behavior, and he had also sexually abused Sheila and Tina until they left for Keddie. So they tracked Jim down, and they had NCIS do a background check on him and even surveilled him for a while. It was known that Tina was his favorite in the family, so they thought that like maybe he did kidnap her and still had her. However, days go by and there are no signs of her. So they finally questioned Jim and asked him if he kidnapped Tina. Jim did have an alibi and was nowhere near Keddie, so there was no way that he could have been involved. So police then start looking closer at Sue's life to see like who could possibly want her dead. They looked at any ex-boyfriends and eliminated all of them as suspects. And rumors just started going wild, including that Sue was involved in drug trafficking, that she was a sex worker. Sheila says like none of this is true because the kids would have known like if she was out all the time seeing men. I mean, they lived in like a pretty small cabin together. They would probably be aware of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There were also no drugs found at the home or in her system. And Special Investigator Greg Hagwood believes that there's no truth to these theories. So now investigators turn to look at Tina to see if this could be due to like someone wanting to kidnap her specifically. So they questioned her teachers, her friends, and that's when they discovered Joel Lipsy, who was Tina's teacher at Quincy Elementary School. So they first thought that he would just be someone who could like provide, information about her as her teacher, but he quickly became a person of interest. They realized that he had a fixation on Tina. He had her picture on his desk. He had a picture of her at his home. Very strange things for your teacher.
So weird.
Yeah. Several people believed that he possibly abducted Tina, and other witnesses saw Joel at the Keddie bar the night of the murders. So he eventually left Keddie and was arrested in the area he moved to for sexually abusing a young girl. However, he does have an alibi for the time of the murders, so they determined that he could not have been involved.
So it's again like two like terrible people, but
Mm-hmm.
somehow not associated with this. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Like, how does this happen? Like, how do you have that many horrible people in your life?
Yeah.
Ugh. So now investigators are scrambling to try and understand what happened in cabin 28. So they now come up with a theory that maybe the motive wasn't to kidnap Tina, but they like took her as a way to throw off the investigation. They're like, okay, well, everyone will focus on finding Tina and not like paying attention to like the murders and like figuring out what happened there. Um, which obviously was kind of what happened. They're like, oh, we have a missing girl who could be alive. Like that's where all of our attention and resources are going right now. So Sheila believes that the motive was more towards her mom and that Johnny and Dana just walked in on something. And law enforcement do believe that the killer or killers knew the Sharp family. So law enforcement now interview Rick and Greg, wondering if they saw or heard anything. Rick was 10 years old and Greg was 5 years old. Both insist that they slept through everything and heard nothing, which for such a horrific murder, it is kind of hard to believe that the boys did not wake up at all. Which again brings up the question of if the killer knew the family, knew the boys were like in there and like tried to be quiet because they were aware of, what was happening.
Hmm.
And neighbors did report waking up around 1:30 in the morning and hearing muffled screams. They said they couldn't figure out like where it was coming from, so they went back to sleep, which I understand because it's like sometimes you wake up and you hear something, but you're like, what am I going to do? Call the police and be like, I heard something somewhere in the
Yeah.
vicinity of this area? Like,
And it's also like this is like a little resort where there's like a bunch of cabins just like right next to each other. So you probably
hmm.
hear that and you wake up and you're like, someone's probably having a party or
Yeah.
someone, you're just like, like
Or like maybe
I
it's an
don't,
animal. Like we're, in the
yeah.
woods. Like it could be like a coyote or, anything that's like
Hmm.
making similar type sounds.
Yeah. So it's kind of like I get that where you're like, we kind of looked around, we don't really see anything. Like,
Hmm.
what can you do about it?
I know I've had that thought before, like when I hear like gunshots in the distance, because like we live in Tennessee, like that's a very common occurrence. For those of you who are listening who are like, what do you mean? Like, no, that happens all the time. But sometimes I'm like, you hear something and you're like, but what if like this was like a domestic situation and like you
Hmm.
hear it, but there's nothing you can do about it. Like if you live in a place where there's like a bunch of people, you have no idea like where it's coming from. Like you
Yeah.
can't like call the police and be like, yeah, I heard gunshots. Like,
They
okay,
just posted on the Ring
yes.
neighborhood thing.
Is this
That's all I get
fireworks
all
or
the
or
time.
gunshots at 11 p.m. on July 4th? What do you think it is? What do you
Yeah.
think it is?
Use your brain, girly.
So, investigators also interviewed Justin Eason, who was there. Justin said he had a strange dream that seems to like mirror some kind of attack or fight. So, the sheriff decides to hypnotize Justin to see if he can provide any details. He said that he had a dream that he was on the Love Boat, which is what they were watching before they went to bed. He said that two men stabbed Sue, Johnny, and Dana and then threw them overboard. He said they then got away in a rubber raft. So, the stream's pretty wild because it kind of incorporates like real life about like what was happening and like so much of it mimicked what had happened like from what they could tell in these murders. Um, he said in the dream that he saw Sue like split in the chest, which is something that occurred in the murders. And he talked about the attackers having a hammer, which we know was one of the murder weapons. He also said that Johnny and Dana fought off an attacker, which makes sense when you look at the crime scene. And I think it's interesting too that like it involved like the Love Boat, like they were watching it right before they went to sleep. So it's like this whole like
Hmm.
strange, kind of aware of what's happening, kind of not situation.
Yeah, and like we talk about it a little bit later too, but some people are like, did he just like make up like the dream part to be like,
Hmm.
I was dreaming? And so he adds in this like fluff to be
Yeah.
like, I didn't actually see anything, kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
So Justin described two men, one with short hair and one with long hair, and a composite artist came up with two men that Justin said he saw in this dream. So one sketch looked a lot like Marty Smart, who was Justin's stepfather. He lived with Justin and his mother Marilyn adjacent to cabin 28, and Marty was not a nice person. He wasn't a good person. He hated Johnny, actually. And Sheila said she's not sure exactly why he hated Johnny, but did say like Johnny could kind of like mouth off sometimes, like kind of have like a smart mouth, which like again, he's 15. So like any authority, especially someone who's like not your dad, you're probably like, yeah, don't talk to me.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
So, Marty was a Vietnam veteran who had PTSD, and he was known to be aggressive and violent. He had a very explosive temper and was said to have abused Marilyn and Justin. And at one point, it was even said he tried to run over Justin and Marilyn with his car.
My God.
Again, third bad person here. Um, so he actually went to the VA and was put in the mental health unit. And this is where he met John Bobiday, who actually went by Bo, and they became friends. So when Marty left the hospital, Bo came back with him to Keddie, and Bo kind of like slept on their couch. Bo, unsurprisingly, was also not a very good man. He had a long criminal history as a thief, a hitman, and had spent a lot of time in prison.
We have some real winners in this episode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, shortly after the murders, Marilyn was interviewed by investigators. She said that on the night in question, Bo had actually asked out Sue Sharp, and Sue had rejected his advances. And Marilyn said that she was at a bar with Marty and Bo said he felt like killing someone. So now they're like, could this be the motive? Is that Sue rejected Bo, and so he was like trying to get his revenge? So the sheriff brings Marty and Bo in for questioning, and they were interviewed together by two investigators from the Department of Justice. So not like someone specialized in interrogation, the Department of Justice.
That's an
Which
interesting
is,
choice.
yeah, which is odd, and also for them to be interviewed together. Like your two prime suspects at this moment, you're going to put them in the same room. When's that ever worked? So Bo lies and claims that he used to be a cop, and he said he was shot in an armed robbery and was impotent. Impotent? Is that right? Can you say that? And he's like, I clearly have no interest in Sue because I'm impotent. Um, yeah, that's his riveting story.
It's a good alibi there, you know?
Yeah. And Bo also gives an alibi for the murders and says he couldn't do it because he was at a bar with Marty. Again, not a great alibi when the second prime suspect is your alibi. So during the interview, Marty says that Justin could have seen him at the scene of the crime without Marty detecting him. So now Marty's kind of implying that he was at the scene of the crime, which is like, why would you be there if you had nothing to do with it? And Marty also says he heard a rumor that a hammer was used. And Marty says there's a hammer missing from his house and like described it like very specifically. So, kind of weird. However, police don't investigate this at all, and they let Marty and Bo go. And Marty and Bo both left town and went to Nevada, and they were never re-interviewed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's a few theories on why the police would just let them go, because
Mm-hmm.
what? So some say that the police were being corrupt and that the sheriff himself was one of Marty's closest friends. So that he kind of was like, okay, like, and there was also speculation the authorities had pressured the boys to not give any evidence against Bo and Marty, which they're all, very young boys who could be very impressionable. So, as we mentioned before, people also believe that like Justin did see the murders happen and he was threatened by Marty, so he turned it into a dream versus saying like what he saw. Like he'd been like, "Oh, I had like a dream about it," and then he kind of had to cover himself to protect himself. And Sheila really heavily believes like there was a cover up as far as Marty and Bo like never being reinvestigated. And another theory is that Bo was an informant and he was helping them get a bigger person in the mob world. So they thought they were protecting him because he was like heavily involved in organized crime and he could even be like in the witness protection program. So it's like, what? So you're gonna protect him even though he might have just murdered three people?
That's quite the theory.
Yeah. And special investigator Greg Hagwood, who we mentioned earlier and who like knew the family as well, was told to stay away from the case or he would be fired. So like anytime he started to try to like investigate it, they were like, stay away. And as we said, Bo and Marty moved away, and investigators never searched for the hammer. And years go by, and the case goes cold. So Sheila would regularly contact the police department to ask about updates, and she was just put off. There were no updates, no comments. And then on April 22nd, 1984, which is 3 years after the murders, a cranium is found in Butte County. So Butte County is the neighboring county to Plumas County, which is where Keddie is. And the county receives an anonymous call claiming that this is the skull of Tina Sharp. And forensic testing is done and prove that this is Tina's remains. And we may never know what happened to Tina. Her remains were in a condition where they could not determine like how she died or when she died. So we don't know if she was killed that night or if she was kidnapped and killed later, and we just really may never know. So investigators believe whoever made the anonymous call is involved in the murders because like how else would they know, you know. And there's a recording of the call, so that's a great lead. And then the recording goes missing and it's never investigated further.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah, it's not a great one. It's not a great one. So, Bo dies in 1988 and Marty dies in 2000. And Sheila said mostly like after they died, she just kind of gave up. She was like, I feel like they were involved. I feel like I'm never going to know the truth. Like it's been 20 years at this point. And then in 2010, Greg Hagwood does become sheriff. And so now he orders his detectives to take a fresh look at the cabin murders. And he said to him it was like very personal because he was like, I couldn't investigate it. I knew these people. Like, I want to solve this. So they examined everything in the case file, which included thousands of pages. And during this, they came across that Marty was going to a therapist at the VA. So Sheriff Hagwood contacted the therapist, and the therapist said that Marty had confessed to the killings. And they have a video of the therapist explaining what Marty said.
I'm pretty sure patient confidentiality does not apply in this situation.
Yeah. But she told them, and they didn't investigate it. So she like went to the police and was
But
like, "Hey,
why does she not
like
tell them before?
they have a video from back in the day
Oh, so she did
of
tell them
her."
before.
Yeah.
Oh, oh.
Yeah. So like they found the therapist and they were like,
Hmm.
what's this?" And she's like, "Yeah, like I came in and I told you and no one
I
ever
thought I
did
thought the
anything."
video was at this time, not
Oh yeah, sorry. I didn't
originally.
explain that. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. So this again furthers rumors about neglect or cover up since they had that information too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And with the new investigation, they also found the recording of the anonymous 911 call about Tina's remains. So they sent it off to the FBI and their voice comparison unit. And they also discovered a handwritten letter postmarked 16 days after the murders from Marty Smart to Marilyn. And in the letter, he's trying to repair their marriage. He said, "I've bought your love with the lives of four people." So kind of odd. And Marilyn did leave him like the day of the murders, like she left him immediately. So Sheriff Hagwood immediately sent it to the Department of Justice, and their forensic team got DNA from Marty off of the letter. So in early 2016, a junk collector with a metal detector found a hammer near a lake in Keddie, and he just kind of like threw it into the lake, being like, "This is worthless. It's like a hammer. I'm not going to get any money for that." And then later, he finds a website dedicated to the cabin murders. This website doesn't appear to be up any longer, but it was www.k28.com. And it was kind of trying to help get any exposure or discussion to solve the murders. It like kind of comes out later that it was like kind of a corrupt site, but it was a site dedicated to trying to talk about it. So the junk collector contacts the website and police are called. So investigators do find it, and it was very similar to the missing hammer that Marty described, even down to like the handle color. So they sent the hammer for testing, but I cannot find any public records regarding the recording or the hammer and like what the results of that testing was. So, as far as like fact wise, that's kind of as far as we go. As far as like what police will say, like, these are the facts we have. But of course, there's a lot of internet sleuths with a lot of theories that we're going to get into now. And I just want to say these are theories and not facts. Like, I'm not saying these are facts. We're not saying this is what happened. These are speculations. I don't want anyone coming for me or audio clipping me. No, don't do that. And a lot of these actually come from like a free forum post that's like dedicated to like where people can post and like talk about it. So one thing like a lot of people on the internet have speculated that Sheila was in on the murders or at least like knew they were going to happen. Like that's why she wasn't at the house that night, but like there's no basis to this. I'm going to go ahead and say like that is not true. She has dedicated her life to trying to like solve the murders, keeping awareness of the case. So let's just keep her name out of this.
Yeah, like that just sounds so completely far-fetched that
Yeah.
it
Like
doesn't
she
make any
was
sense.
what, 14?
Yeah.
Like I don't think if your theory is that like Marty and Bo or whoever adults were like, "Hey, we're gonna go murder your family."
Mm-hmm.
You think a 14-year-old girl's gonna keep that quiet?
Yeah.
Like,
And still to this day, after they're gone, like, no. And like, especially because like she's so involved in like keeping awareness
hmm.
for this case, like, why would you do that if you had something to do with it? Like, if you did, you would just
Yeah.
kind of let it go.
Yeah. So just insane. Another theory is that Jamie Seabolt is involved in the murders. So I've not found a place that again says this is fact, but it's been implied that Jamie's DNA was found at the murder scene. So if you remember, Jamie helped the three boys out the window, and then later he says he went inside to see if anyone was still alive. So this is contamination of the crime scene, and some wonder if he did this to like intentionally cover up his role in the murder. But I'm pretty sure he was like 12 years old or like a teenager. One place I saw 12, one I said a teenager, but again, I don't think that adds up. that teenagers are getting involved.
Yeah, like again, he's a teenager. It's also, I mean, what is this, the 80s, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like I can't imagine a teenage boy in the 80s is thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna like go back in here to cover up that I
Yeah, I
was here
don't think they have that
before."
much forethought.
No. Like today maybe with like as many like crime shows as there are and stuff
Hmm.
like that, but then I just don't see that at all.
Yeah. Um, it is said in a 2008 interview that Marilyn told investigators that she believed Marty and Bo were responsible. She said she found Tina's bloody jacket in the basement after the murders and quickly turned it over to police. But there's no record of this, so don't know if that is Marilyn lying. Don't know if that's again police corruption. So, and in 2018, DNA from a piece of tape was found at the crime scene that was linked to a quote living unidentified suspect, and that's why like a lot of people suspect Jamie Seabolt because they're like maybe he's like the living unidentified suspect. I don't know how based on DNA you would know if that person was still alive or not if you don't know who they are. I never got an answer on that.
So is it that they don't know who it is or they're not releasing who it is?
They don't know who it is. It's like
Okay.
an unidentified suspect, but they believe the suspect is alive.
Okay. Interesting.
Don't know why.
I don't know if you were saying like the suspect was unidentified to investigators or just like unidentified to the general public. So I don't know if you were saying like they, but yeah, I
I
don't know
would
how you would know
think if
that.
investigators knew, they would have made an arrest by now if it was a
Yeah.
suspect, or at least like it would be in
Hmm.
like him being investigated, being talked about, or
Yeah,
she, I
true.
guess. But and then a theory as far as motive goes is that there was a love triangle between Sue, Marilyn, and Marty. It's suspected that Sue was encouraging Marilyn to leave Marty after Marilyn had confided in her that Marty was beating her. And with this, Marty was mad and enlisted Bo to help kill Sue. Again, like we said, Marilyn left Marty the day of the murder discovery. It could explain why the three boys were spared because his stepson was in that room. And it is believed that Johnny and Dana had come in protecting Sue and that, like, she would, like, this could explain why she was targeted. This doesn't really explain the Tina of it all, like, unless it is again like trying to throw off the investigation. And the theory also comes from the letter to Marilyn from Marty, where he said he like bought her love with the price of four lives, like that maybe like he was having an affair, and so he went and like killed them to be like, here's proof of my love somehow in some fucked up way. I don't know. Um, but that is a theory. So there are quite a few suspects, like theories on this like free forum I mentioned, like a lot of names. And after reviewing a few, I don't think it's appropriate to put their names on the podcast as they've not been publicly named as suspects. While we don't have like a huge following, I don't want to publicly accuse someone, especially someone who's still alive, based on a theory on a free forum.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
um, so we can link the forum if you're interested in other theories. Like if you want to go look at all those suspects and like all the information people have on them. I just didn't feel right naming them when I'm not trying to mess up someone's life.
Yeah, especially if there's no like evidence tying them to it. Like you said, they've never been like, interviewed as a suspect or
Hmm.
anything like that. Yeah, that gets
Yeah.
dicey.
Yeah. So to this day, no arrest had been made, even though like they believe they have the DNA to like a living suspect. Um, Investigators today say there could be as many as six people involved in the murders. I guess they think it could be as widespread as that. Again, the results of a lot of the tests are unknown, at least to the public. I don't know, you know, if investigators know. And in 2004, Cabin 28 was demolished after the resort area had been like neglected and unsafe, and they kind of just had to tear it down. Um, and if you have any information about the Keddie murders, if you it's been itching away at you for the last 40 years, 40 something years, please call 530-283-6375. And Sheriff Greg Hagwood, like he says, like this case is personal and like he really wants to solve it. Like he's really dedicated to solving it. It's just so hard because it's been so long. There's so many limitations. Two prime suspects are no longer alive, so it's a tough one and it's so sad. Like
Yeah, it is really sad.
four people just murdered and like no one knows what happened.
Yeah, no one knows who, no one knows why. You have people who are just in the wrong place at the wrong time, like visiting a friend. I mean,
Mhm.
ugh,
And like why was Tina taken and then like
yeah.
was she killed there and like killed elsewhere? Like why was she taken at all? Like
Hmm.
what was the point of that? Why like the fact that there were three boys in another room in the cabin who were alive and just sleeping, like
Yeah. For
that's gotta
how,
mess you up for the rest of
like,
your life.
yeah, definitely. And how, like, intense these murders were, and that they were present and sleeping through the whole thing. And like you said with Tina, it's like, was she kidnapped? Was like her being kidnapped kind of the motive behind all of this, and then like the murders occurred, during that, after that, an additional thought you had while you were there for some reason, I don't know,
Yeah.
or was it, they were intent on murdering these people, and then they, kidnapped Tina as a way to draw the investigation that way. It's just, yeah, very strange, a lot of unknowns.
Yeah. I definitely feel like it was possibly targeting one person.
Hmm.
I don't want to say necessarily Sue, but I feel like one person because I feel like there's no way you would have gone into that cabin knowing
Yeah.
like the teenage boys were awake. Like how many people are in this cabin that you would
Hmm.
just I also just find it hard to believe that like Marty would go where his stepson is sleeping
Yeah.
to do this, but he's also not a great person. And I also don't know if like
Did he know
maybe
that his stepson was there?
I don't know. That's another good question.
Like if he's like not
Um,
involved at all, and it's like, did he even know like where his stepson was that night? Like, is that just a
yeah,
very,
I mean they
very strange
all lived in the
coincidence?
same cabin, so I would
Yeah.
think you would know because he was so young if he wasn't there, but who knows? I also wonder like could the boys like have heard something, but it's like a trauma response that you
Yeah.
forget it. So it's like
Hmm.
also sometimes people are just really deep sleepers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Especially like
that
some
is
kids at
true.
that age, it's like they could
Yeah.
sleep through whatever. Like they're out.
Yeah. That's like when we had a tornado warning pass through here last week, and, had to drag my almost 4-year-old out of bed. And she's like, "Why are we out of bed?" And the next thing we know, she's like literally snoring, sitting straight up, like just in
Yeah.
the hallway, just passed right back out. Like,
Yeah, it's good.
but yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah.
people are heavy sleepers. Like we, make jokes about it sometimes, but it's like, I mean, my husband is a very heavy sleeper. Like the children can legitimately be crying, and like I can hear him snoring. Like I know he's asleep. He's not faking it, but like he legit can sleep through anything. Like,
Yeah. But yeah, those are the murders of Sue, Johnny, Dana, and Tina.
yeah, very sad one.
Very depressing.
Well, what's not depressing is trying to bring this up a little bit at the end. Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
So, my perk of the week is that every year Kevin and I are always like, we're gonna watch all the Best Picture nominated films for the Oscars.
Mhm.
And like, we never do. But this year, I think we're gonna do it.
Oh,
Except
okay.
there's one technicality and the fact that he watched a movie that I did not because it was
Mm,
3.5 hours. I didn't feel like sitting through theater for that. I said I'd watch
yeah.
it at home, but we have two more and we officially got like our tickets for them. We have
Hmm.
Regal Unlimited. We're not just out here buying really expensive movie tickets. But my especially perk of the week is that one of them, like, I don't know if it's gonna win, but it absolutely blew me away. And it's called I'm Still Here. So it's actually a film that was like a Brazilian film. So it's like all in
Hmm.
Portuguese. But it was so good. Apparently it's based on a true story. I did not know that going in.
Mm.
So I was crying during just the story. And then they start showing pictures of like all the real people.
Oh
So I started
gosh.
crying more. Like literally, like we were driving home and like Kevin's looking at me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not okay." Because it's basically like 19 like 70 Brazil, which was apparently
Hmm.
like under a dictatorship, which I didn't know about. But so basically it's like how they would go in and like take people and like investigate them and then like their families just never heard from them ever again and don't know what
Hmm.
happened to them. And it was about like a woman like fighting to find out what happened to her husband and like
Mm.
fighting to give these people their names back and like
Wow.
and then it was all real. Devastated me.
Yeah,
But it was so good. It was
that's
so well
awful.
done. The main actress, like, holy shit. I hope she wins Best Actress because,
Hmm.
like, damn, did she do a good job. Like,
That's good.
it was amazing. It
Yeah.
was so well done. It was so good. But I don't know. I was telling Kevin, I was like, for some reason, I'm always loving the foreign films. I'm like, am I just a huge like foreign film lover? Like,
Maybe so.
I don't know. It's so weird. Like my favorite movie last year was like Past Lives,
Hmm.
which was like half in Korean. I'm
Yeah, I
just
remember you
like,
telling me about
I don't know. I love a subtitle, I guess. I don't know.
that.
But it is like
You
so
found a
fun that
new
like,
genre to explore.
yeah, I know. It's just so like fun and interesting how like you can connect so much to a movie even like when
Hmm.
you don't speak like the primary language that they're
Yeah,
speaking, you know? So
definitely.
it's like it's crazy how film can do that. But yeah,
Kind
it's a
of
very
brings
good
everyone
movie.
together.
Yeah. So if you have the ability to watch it, please do because it was so good. Just kind of be prepared to be an emotional wreck.
Just prepare to be emotionally devastated. But
Yeah.
other than that, it was great. It was a great time.
Yeah, I think because like the problem was like it was so beautiful at also showing just like the real life moments. Like you're in a
Hmm.
dictatorship, but it's like here's the family at the beach. Like here's like them like doing stuff. And
Yeah.
then I was like sitting there and I was like getting upset because I was like, wow, this like really happened to people. And like this really happens to people. And then I was like, it's a true story. Psh, gone. Gone.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
all know I'm too empathetic to basically be alive. So it's getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know what I got to do about this. Like, where's the off button?
Which is, it's a great
Like,
thing for your mental health to have a true crime podcast.
yeah, for real. But yeah, so that is my perk of the week. Jacqueline, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is that this week we talked about it at the beginning of the episode, but we brought back our monthly girls' nights. So it's been a minute because someone of us had to go and have a baby and be a little preoccupied. So,
Who would do that? What a loser.
So we finally got to start back up our girls' nights, and it's just so fun. It's just, after work, after those of us that have kids put the kids to bed, we hang out together in our sweatpants and eat dinner and watch a
hmm
movie, and it's just a very nice,
We always have a dessert, and yeah, we
yes,
we have like a huge list of movies. We just like randomly pick one,
you know,
just random
s-
spinner.
spin a
So
wheel and it lands on one, and okay, this is what we're watching, and we decide what food we're doing, and we all bring something, and we just, it's just a very nice
yeah,
little
and we
gathering,
gossip,
and
as you
of
heard from
course,
the
I mean,
beginning.
you can't have a girls' night without
Yeah.
gossip.
Yeah. And then the movie last night was really sad, and so I just kept making jokes because I was trying not to cry.
We're all sitting there crying and then just cracking jokes at the same time to deflect from the serious situation, like you do.
Yeah. Because there was at one moment I said something, you're like, I was trying not to break the moment. I was like, I have to, or I'm gonna be crying. Oh, but
Oh, but yeah, that's my perk of the
yeah,
week. I'm glad it's
fun
back.
time.
Glad to do it again. We never established a date for next month. We need to do that.
We do.
We established a week, but not a day. So.
Yeah. So
But if you want to tell us about your best movie that you've watched this year, your girls' nights, your thoughts on this case, have you looked into some of the theories on this case? Do you have ideas? Do you want to chat about it, not in a public format where we are putting people's information out there, but do you want to have,
mhm.
a discussion with us about it? You can find us on all the places in the show notes. We are also, again, as plugged at the beginning, on patreon.com/caffeinated crimes, where we now have over 50 bonus episodes. So if you
That is
want to listen to us talk
wild.
for a long time, I don't know why you would, but if you do, we're over there. You can chat with us on Discord. We got pins, we got stickers. We just kind of have all kinds of little fun things going on over there.
Yeah, we try to keep it fun. We try to keep it exciting. If you wouldn't mind, give us 5 stars on Apple, on Spotify, anywhere that has a rating system. Like, subscribe on YouTube, leave us a nice comment because those are our favorite comments.
Yes.
But in the meantime, go have a cup of coffee.
And don't commit a crime.